Hello, class. It's Miss Roberts here, and today we're going to talk about communication and its influence on personal relationships. Let's begin. So, first, we're going to talk about how effective communication applies to personal relationships, define personal relationships in regards to friendships and romances, and create guidelines for sustaining healthy personal relationships. So, personal relationships are voluntary commitments between irreplaceable individuals. And our personal relationships are influenced by rules, relationship dialectics, and surrounding context. In addition, each personal relationship we have with the people in our main circles cannot be replaced. And the commitment is voluntary. We have passion for the relationship and we have investments in our relationships. In addition, we also have relationship rules. So society and our own individual relationships have rules that regulate how we treat each other, expectations of the relationship, etc. It's also affected by context. What type of relationship is it? Is it friendship? Is it romantic? Are these relationships with your family? We have different types of friends, different types of family members. Romantic partnerships have their own dynamics and definitions. So, what is it about the relationship that makes it so unique? Just a moment. So, we have relationship dialectics. We might have felt these before, but we might not have known what they are called. These are opposing but continuous tensions, and it's normal in all close relationships. So if you've heard the expression, like these two things can happen at once, this is one example of that. So we have our need for autonomy versus connection. So how much of ourselves do we keep to ourselves? How much of ourselves do we share with others? Excuse me. And how much alone time do we spend versus connecting with others? How much, how many, how, to what degree do we enjoy new experiences with our loved ones versus our rituals like sushi Fridays and going to church on Sundays or our 4th of July barbecues every year? So, excuse me, to what degree do we want change in our relationships versus predictability and stability in our relationships? And then going back to disclosure, to what degree do we share ourselves with the people that we are close to? And what information do we want to close off to others? Ways that we ease this dialectical tension is one, by neutralization, finding compromise in the situation, or just completely separate, address one need at the expense of the other. Segmenting, so separating these dialectics into spheres. So, for example, having alone time at this designated time versus having together time at this related time. And reframing. We've defined the dialectics so it won't cause as much tension. So personal relationships, strong personal relationships require time and growth and commitment to the parties involved. They develop at their own pace. Friendships and romances share several commonalities versus the family that you have is the family that you are born into or adopted into versus friendships and romances are the relationships that you voluntarily have with other people. And there are turning points in the growth of relationships or the decline of these relationships. So with friendships, sometimes you might have a limited interaction, but it can also develop to more friendly interactions where it's not necessarily role-based versus like a work friendship or a friendship where you are part of a soccer team, but you take it a step further and meet outside of the bounds of that role. Then the more time you spend with each other, you define yourself as friends. Then you have the early parts of a friendship. The friendship can become stabilized, become stronger, or if the friendship is not cultivated or you don't spend enough time with each other, then it could wane or extinguish. But excuse me, but romantic relationships can follow a similar path. The people have to meet and maybe have small talk or start off as friends. Then the bond escalates, goes up, they create a connection, and then once that stabilizes, navigating and negotiating the terms of that relationship and making sure that they're checking in with one another and both parties are equally as committed to the relationship. But then things can happen where the romantic partnership can deteriorate when partners don't see eye to eye, or they're not working as hard, or one person or the other aren't working as hard to maintain that relationship. Online romantic partnerships can form more rapidly, and the way that dating has changed, especially with the invention of apps and websites, we're able to meet more people, but we still have to put in the work in order to maintain or establish those relationships. So the greatest influence on attraction would be proximity. So whoever is closest to you, you may, or those who are closest to you, or those you may see more often may form a bond just because they're around each other a lot. This can also, this effect can also happen in online relationships. So if you log on and see each other in an online space, those bonds can grow as well. People are also attracted to people who they are similar to. So the matching hypothesis is that we attract like versus like. So we're able to see ourselves in each other, so we are drawn to that person. Then we have different dynamics of romantic partnerships. For example, meeting the person, having small talk and disclosing, trying to explore who they are. When you figure out, or when both parties figure out that, hey, we really like each other, those romantic feelings, those experiences, and those new novel experiences can create a very intense emotional bond. And then, of course, once that intense emotional bond kind of wanes, you have to revise what you mean to each other and figure out if you're going to go forward. And if so, how so? When we talk about intimate bonding, we're talking about emotional intimacy and how the couple now works as a unit and to what degree they work as a unit. Sometimes the romantic partnership can wax and wane. So how can we keep that emotional bond and intimacy and novelty alive with constantly resurrecting the relationship? We also want to make sure that we have social support, but we also want to make sure that um, we want to make sure that we're not trying to resurrect a relationship that's not sustainable. So we also want to have social support for our relationships because it's kind of hard when we don't. It's based on the two couples, and we are in an interpersonal relationship with a bunch of emotions. We also live in a relationship culture. So it's the nucleus of an established intimate relationship, and we have societies that surrounds, excuse me, that are based on marriages and coupling. So if someone is single, they might feel a little bit outside of that box. Relationships develop over time, and it develops over the relationship evolves over the lifetime of the relationship. Relational deterioration is also a reality of life where we are emotionally tied to this person. It can really wear down on our emotions and our psychology. Then there's also differing responses to jealousy, breakdown of patterns and understanding and rules. So when that happens, it can be fixed if it's recognized early and the couple does what they can to fix those holes in the relationship. But if they don't, they can deteriorate more and result in separation. So, of course, for digital media and personal relationships, social media has made it easier for us to form and maintain romantic partnerships, but making sure that we follow these rules and making sure that maybe we see each other in person if possible, but we can find more people online for romantic relationships. But it's easier to misrepresent who you are online. Think of catfishing as an extreme example where a person just takes a different picture and talks to the person. So you just have to be careful and cautious. Cyberstalking is also a new concern, so of course be safe out there and be cautious of who you let into those circles because it can also have damaging effects on people who are victims of cyberstalking. So overall, the guidelines are to adapt communication to to manage distance, make sure to have equity in family relationships, for example, making sure that we are viewed as equals in our relationships and make sure that we have the right balance of closeness versus attachment and versus detachment in these family relationships. Make sure that in romantic partnerships, make sure to keep yourself safe and find resources if you do experience intimate partner violence. And if you are sexually active, assist and make sure that you're keeping yourself safe during those interactions. So, communication in personal relationships can be messy, but it's a beautiful part of life. Friendships and romantic partnerships can evolve over time. And we also reviewed guidelines for friendships and romantic partnerships. All right. So thank you so much for joining me in this talk. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much and enjoy your day. Bye.